Good morning everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you how to subtract 4-digit, 5-digit and decimals using the algorithm with trading. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is you need to place the numbers one on top of the other, lining up the tens and the ones. If the bottom digit is greater than the top digit, trade borrow a 10 from the next column and mark it by 1. Step 2 is you need to, the bottom digit is bigger, if the bottom digit is bigger than the top digit in the ones column, so 4 is smaller than 6, so we have to borrow from our tens. Add 10 to the ones column, so 4 plus 10, which equals 14. Then subtract the ones from each other, so 14 take away 6 equals 8, and write the answer under the ones. Step 3 is the top digit is smaller than the bottom digit. So 4 is smaller than 5. So we need to borrow from the hundreds column. So we need to mark the hundreds by 1. So 5 take away 1 is 4. Then we need to add it to the 10, add the 10 to the tens column and subtract the tens. So 14 take away 5 is 9, and write the answer in the tens column. Then we need to subtract the hundreds from each other. So 4 take away 2 and write the answer in the hundreds column, and then subtract the thousands. So 7,000 take away 3,000 and write the answer in the thousands column. So 7 take away 3 equals 4, and then check your answer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example. So the first thing I've done is I've lined up my numbers together. Now I can already see in my ones column that I'm going to need to trade. So 2 and 5, you can't take them away from each other. So I'm going to borrow from the tens column. So I'm going to take 1 away from 6, and it's going to make 5, and I'm going to carry that 1 into the ones column. So now it's 12 take away 5, which is 7. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do 5 take away 9. So I can't take 5 away from 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade or borrow from the hundreds column. So I'm going to cross the 9 out and borrow 1, which will make this 8. And I'm going to carry it over into the tens column. So 15 take away 9 is 6. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to my hundreds. Now I can already see I'm not going to be able to take 8 from 9. I can't take 8 away from 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade or borrow from the thousands column. So I'm going to cross out my 4,000 and borrow 1, which will make this 3, and I'm going to move that over into the hundreds column. So I'm going to take 18, take away 9, which is 9, and then I'm going to take away 3, take away 1, which is 2. So then I'm going to check my answer. So I'm going to have 2,967. Now I'm going to show you a 5-digit number. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my numbers one on top of each other. Now, if the number on top is smaller than the number on the bottom, then I'm going to need to trade from the column to the left. So if I look, let's look at step 2 now. So the bottom digit is bigger than the top digit. So what I need to do is I need to borrow from the tens. So I need to borrow 1, cross it out and make 4, and then I need to carry that into the ones column. So then I'm going to take 14 take away 6 and write my answer below. Step 3 is I can see that I can't take 4 away from 5, so I'm going to borrow from the hundreds column. So I'm going to cross out my 500s and borrow 1, and I'm going to make this 4 and move my 1 into the tens column. So I'm going to take 14 take away 5 and write my answer in the tens column. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to my hundreds. So I can take 4, take away 2, which is 2, and write the answer in the hundreds column. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away my thousands. So I can't take 3, take away 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from this column. I'm going to take away 1, which will make this 3, and move the 1 into the thousands column. So 13 take away 7 is 6, and I'm going to write my answer below. Then I need to move on to my 10,000. So 3 take away 1, or 3 10,000s take away 1 10,000 is 2 10,000s. And then I'm going to check my answer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example. So I'm going to start by lining up my two numbers. Now if the number on top is smaller than the one on the bottom, then I'm going to need to trade. So let's start with my ones column. So I can see I can't take away 2 and 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from the tens column. So I'm going to borrow 1, and this is going to turn into 3, and I'm going to put that 1 just here in the ones column. So 12 ones take away 4 ones is 8. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away my tens. So this is my tens column. I can't do 3 take away 6, so I can't take away 3 tens from 6 tens, so I'm going to borrow from the hundreds column. So I'm going to borrow 100. So I'm going to take 5 take away 1, and so this will make this 4, and I'm going to move that 1 into the tens, move that 100 into the tens column. So it'll make 13 tens take away 6 tens, which will be 7 tens. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my hundreds. So I can see I can't take 4 away from 7. So I'm going to need to borrow from the thousands column. So I've got 1,000 here, so I'm going to borrow that 1,000 and turn it back into hundreds. So it's going to be 14 hundreds. So 14 take away 7 is 7. And then I'm going to move on to my thousands. Now I can't take 0 away from 9, so I'm going to need to borrow again. So I'm going to borrow from my 10,000s now. So I've got 3 10,000, so I'm going to borrow a 10,000 and turn it back into thousands. So that's going to leave me with 2,000. So I'm going to move that back into the thousands column. So now I've got 10,000s, and I'm going to take away 9,000s, which is 1,000. Now I'm going to take away 2 10,000s and 2 10,000s, which is 0. And I always put it there anyway because it is still a number. It still has a value. So now I'm going to check my answer. My answer is 1,778. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of how to solve a decimal with trading. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line my numbers up, which I've done. Now the number that is on top here is smaller than this number. So I'm going to need to borrow from the tenths column. So I'm going to borrow a tenth. So this will be 3 tenths, and I'm going to move that tenth and turn it back into hundredths. So 12 hundredths take away 3 hundredths is 9 hundredths. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my tenths. So 3 tenths take away 7 tenths I can't do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from the ones column and turn them into tenths. So this is going to turn into 2. And I'm going to move the one I borrowed into the tenths column. So now I've got 13 tenths, and I'm going to take away 7 tenths, which is 6. And you're going to remember to put your decimal point in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away my ones. So to take away 6 I can't do. So I'm going to borrow again from the tens column and turn it into ones. So I'm going to move my 10 into the ones column. So it's going to become 12 ones. Take away 6 ones, which is 6. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to my tens column. So 110 take away 110 is 0, and I'm still going to put it there because it's still a number. Then I'm going to check my answer. So my answer is 6 69/100. I hope you've all enjoyed watching this video. Now what you need to do is you need to go onto Google Classroom and complete the activity for today. Thank you. Bye.